it's Brittany and welcome back to Brittany Unplugged. And as you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about the 6 signs that you're losing yourself. So if you feel like you may be slipping into a bit of an identity crisis and you don't know what the cause of it could be, and you don't know whether you're losing yourself or not, and you're just confused and you feel like you aren't yourself and you just don't know what it is, then keep watching. Losing yourself can be defined in 2 ways. The first way is if you have a passion so intense that it literally takes over your entire body. It's kind of like when you're listening to music, for example, and then the song that you're listening to, you can relate to it so much, so you kind of just zone out, you space out, and you completely forget that there's a world around you, and you let the song take over you, let yourself feel the emotions that you need to feel. If you have a certain passion, let's say you're into basketball, you're into music, you're into cooking or whatever, and you let your passion take over you, it's almost like you step out of your body and you just feel a sense of euphoria. You feel such a great feeling. That is a good kind of losing yourself. The one I'm going to focus on today is when you literally feel like you're having an identity crisis. You lose track of who you are. You step out of your body, and instead of admiring yourself, you almost see a stranger. You forget who you are. You lose touch with who you are. You don't know what your interests are. You don't know what your passions are. You don't know where you're headed, and you're just confused. That is the kind of losing yourself I'm going to focus on today. Now, the first sign that you're losing yourself is when you constantly feel the need to seek validation from other people. If you are not familiar with the term of seeking validation, this is when you constantly need someone else's approval of how worthy you are of being on this earth. You always need people's words to build you up. You've never had the time to do a lot of self-introspection and build yourself up. One thing you need to know is that every single human being on this earth is flawed. We all have flaws. We have insecurities, imperfections. We have things we like about ourselves. We have things we don't like about ourselves. We all have completely different stories. You don't need another flawed person to prove how worthy you are of being on this earth, because at the end of the day, we have all got stuff that we're dealing with. You need to do work on you before you get words from somebody else, because you should be so self-assured to the point where you don't need their words to prove how beautiful you are being on this earth, how wonderful you are being on this earth, and everything like that. You do not need their words to prove that at all. And also remember that human beings can lie to you too. So when you go to them and they tell you, oh, you're so great, you're this, of course you should believe that you're great, believe that you're the greatest even. But then of course people may lie to you and they may say, oh my gosh, you're so good at this, maybe when you're not that good at something, or they just really can't say no at all. So just be very mindful and do a lot of work on yourself before you seek validation from other people. You always need to validate yourself before you even think about getting validation from other people. Otherwise, you don't end up reaching your fullest potential. That is why you lose yourself, because when you seek validation from other people, when you need other people to tell you how good you are, when they don't tell you how good you are, you won't believe how good you actually are, and you don't fulfill your heart's desire. You will not reach your fullest potential at all. So make sure that you validate yourself before you think about anybody else validating you. Now, the second sign that you're losing yourself is unsettled feelings. Let me give you a scenario so that you kind of understand what I'm talking about. Let's say you're at a social gathering, a party, school event, a play, any kind of social gathering, you name it, whatever you want. And then you behave in a manner that is not you. Every single person knows what they're comfortable with. Every single person knows what they're not comfortable with. So you can't say that I really don't know, because clearly you do know deep down in your heart, deep down, dig in there and find what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, because we all know, but then we just choose whether to voice it or not. So let's say you're at a particular gathering, you behave in a manner that is not you. In the moment, let's say you feel good. You feel good in the moment and you just and you feel like you're letting loose completely. There's a difference between letting loose and actually letting go of yourself, if that makes sense. So you feel like you're letting loose, you're having such a good time. The problem arises when you're now thinking about that particular day where you were acting out, or those other days where you constantly act out, and then you feel a sense of shame and guilt and embarrassment, because the reason why you are feeling that way is because you know that that is not you. You are acting out of character. You're moving further and further away from yourself. Now, those negative feelings of anger, disappointment, shame, and guilt are the things that will cause you to lose yourself, because you will never love yourself. You will never like yourself, because you constantly try to act out of character. You act out of what you are comfortable with. It's not necessarily, people say, go out of your comfort zone. This is not your comfort zone per se, but you're literally not acting within your morals. You need to set morals and high standards for yourself in order for you to love yourself to the fullest, because if you don't, you act out of character completely and you literally go nuts, and then you will always live with regret, because you'll be like, why did I act that way that night? So if you went out and you went crazy, and then later on you begin to feel the regret kicking in, that's your conscience telling you that that is not you. And then you will never love yourself to the fullest, because you are always feeling those negative emotions. And the third sign that you're losing yourself is when you invalidate your issues. One thing you need to know is we all have issues on this earth. We all face difficult circumstances, some big, some small. It's relative. It depends on how you feel. Bottom line is that we all have issues that we're dealing with. So one thing you need to know is you cannot invalidate your issues, because when you invalidate your issues, you end up making other people's issues your own issues. Not only will you be carrying their baggage, but you will be carrying your baggage. Oftentimes, when we invalidate our issues, we end up suppressing our emotions. We bottle and bottle and bottle until we're a huge volcano waiting to erupt. When we erupt, we become the worst versions of ourselves possible, and you will absolutely despise that version of yourself. Do not think that your problems are too small for someone to listen to, because then when you make someone else's baggage your baggage, you're adding on to the baggage that you haven't even dealt with. Sometimes you don't even realize that you have baggage, because you're so used to making other people's problems your own, that you actually forget that you have issues yourself that you need to deal with. Normally, I always advise this. If you're having a particular issue, accept the fact that you are feeling that way in order for you to actually deal with that emotion. So when you suppress it before you even accept the fact that you're feeling that way, before you even think twice about how you're actually feeling, then it's doing a lot of damage to you. Eventually, with time, you may not notice it in the beginning, but with time, as you begin to bottle and bottle and bottle, and then you eventually do just snap, then you won't like the version of yourself, and then you end up hating yourself a lot more, because you just always view yourself in a very negative light. So be very, very mindful of that. Never think your problems are too small. If you have a certain issue, talk to someone who you trust who can help you through it. Don't think that you're too weak for having a problem, because that's just being human. And the third sign, which I just mentioned, ties into the fourth sign, is if you become extremely snappy. Now, have you ever been so angry to the point where let's say your friend is irritating you, and then you just snap at them and you say something like, just get away from me, that's why you did this, that, and you start screaming. A lot of the times, the reason why you react in that manner is because you are triggered by something. Either triggered by what they said, triggered by what you're feeling that day. You just don't want people to talk to you, and if people talk to you, then you end up getting annoyed. If then now your friend is probably really, really annoying you, you just had to say something. A lot of the times it's triggered by something. Internal anger is built up over time. The whole idea of snapping doesn't just happen overnight, which is why it ties into the third point, because when you suppress a lot of your emotions, when you bottle, when you're not willing to deal with the emotions that you're feeling, if you're not willing to deal with your circumstances, then it can build up over time, and suddenly that eruption will be you snapping and saying something which could potentially hurt someone else. But the thing is, the person who you're snapping at may not understand why you are doing that, because you suppressed your emotions for too long, and they're probably so used to seeing you smiling, laughing, and all that stuff that they actually forget that you have problems. You forget that you have problems yourself. Everyone forgets that you have a problem. And make sure that you do not reach that point where you end up saying something that could hurt somebody else. Because when you snap, when you're angry, you end up doing things on impulse. You say things on impulse. You say things that can really hurt the other person, but you don't realize the effect that it has. Don't act on impulse. Don't snap at people. The only way to not snap at people is if you deal internally with the anger that you have, the disappointment that you have, the shame that you have, the guilt that you're having. Deal with what's inside first, so that you don't project it onto other people, because it's not cool to project your feelings onto other people, because people can end up feeling worthless when you do that, because you end up doing awful things without you even realizing it, and it becomes a very, very toxic circumstance as a whole, and especially toxic for you, because you are the one that hasn't dealt with what you're feeling. Now, the fifth sign that you're losing yourself is when your passions are literally dead. Your passions, your interests, your heart's desires, everything that you have wanted to accomplish in life suddenly dies. There's a difference between you just changing as a person and wanting to better your wants, your needs, aspirations, your dreams, all that stuff. But then it becomes an issue when you literally feel like you have nothing left inside of you, and you feel like there's nothing left to love anymore. Because with passion, one thing about having a particular passion is that it brings you a sense of fulfillment. Like, it brings you so much joy because it's something that makes you genuinely happy. So it becomes so a part of you that once you lose that passion, you lose part of yourself as well, and it can cause you to even cause depression. That's how bad it is. So you need to make sure that you find your passion. If you've lost your passion, you ease back into it. You ease back into it quickly, because maybe going back at it with full force may not be the best option at all, because you may end up getting super overwhelmed. And one thing that I read is that your passion fuels you and energizes your success. One thing that you need to know about your passion is that if every other aspect of your life is going wrong, the one thing that you love, the one thing that you're so passionate about is the thing that can probably bring a sense of positivity in your life. I am all about positivity. I'm all about having at least one source that you can revert to either have an outlet for your emotions, just to feel good. It's important to have those days where you just feel good. So if you find that a lot of the things that you used to love to do before, but you just feel like you're very unhappy and you're just not willing to do anything at all, and you just become very stagnant, I guess, in everything in life in general, and the things that you really had a whole passion for and everything, then that's a high chance that you are losing yourself. Because if you're passionate about something, then that is the one thing that will keep you going. That is the one thing that will keep you motivated. Now, the sixth and final sign that you're losing yourself, which is also extremely dangerous and can cause a damaging effect on you, is people pleasing. People pleasing is defined as drawing your self-worth from the approval of others. It's like you need other people's approval for everything that you do. You will go to all lengths just to get people to approve you and approve your existence. You will do anything. Even sometimes you may affect the people around you without even realizing it, because your sole purpose is to make yourself look good in front of the person that you are trying to please, or in front of the people that you're trying to please. So trying to be a people pleaser is very dangerous, because at the end of the day, people can lie to you and say, yes, I'm pleased, but then maybe you're making a fool out of yourself and they're just laughing at you behind the scenes. People, seriously, it has a very damaging effect on you. It's almost like you live off of the gratitude and the praise you get from pleasing the other person, even if it means you act out of character. That is why you end up losing yourself, because you will go to all lengths. Like I said, you go to all lengths to act out of character, just to prove your worth to somebody else, just to prove that you can do something in front of that person, just to impress another flawed human being. Like I said, it goes back to how we all have flaws. Trying to please somebody else who's flawed will not work. It will only have an effect on you, because at the end of the day, we all have different interests. We all have different things. You need to do a lot of self-introspection and figure out, why is it that you feel the need to show how good you are at something, to show what you can do to somebody else. First, you need to prove it to yourself before you show it to anybody else that you can do that. And you can end up losing a lot of loved ones around you. You lose yourself a lot. You end up hating yourself a lot more, because you're so used to being somebody else rather than actually being your true self, because you're trying to please somebody else. Always remember that if your vibe does not match somebody else's vibe, there's no need to alter yours to fit theirs or to fit their standards. You should set high standards for yourself and say, whatever vibe comes my way, you will click. Not whatever vibe comes your way, but then whatever vibe that you come across. And if you guys click on the first day, then so be it. If you don't click, then that is okay as well. It is okay for your vibe not to match somebody else. The bottom line is that with trying to be a people pleaser, you constantly live life for the approval of other people. You miss out on a lot of opportunities with great people because you changed your vibe to fit somebody else's vibe, who probably may not even care that much. They're just there to laugh. It's probably a good comedy show for them. Don't be in the habit of living for other people's approvals, because that will simply not work. So we all get angry at ourselves. We all have days when we're just like, oh, I don't like myself. We have days when we don't believe in ourselves. That is very, very common as human beings. It's up to us and as to how we deal with it. Are we going to hate ourselves and constantly tell ourselves we can't do it? Or are we going to love ourselves and say, I can do it. I just need a little work. I need a little effort. I need a little push. What are you going to do in order to get rid of that feeling of shame, guilt, embarrassment? What are you going to do in order to find yourself again? Do a lot of self-introspection, self-care, focus on your talents, your skills, put your energy in positive things. And I guarantee you, you will find yourself within no time. It can't happen overnight at all, but it takes time. It's a process. If you are willing to work towards it, it will happen. It will come your way in no time. And you're not even going to know what hit you. You're just going to wake up one day and you're going to feel great. You're gonna feel like yourself again, like you found yourself again, like you're now home. You're now back in your body. So I hope this video helped you, and I hope these steps helped you. I really hope you take these into your stride. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. Stay safe, everyone. God bless you all. Bye.